Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. And today, yes indeed, we've come to the final, the last, but certainly not the least, although it may be the least in terms of size. We've got Lore of the Little Waaaagh. Yes indeed, this is the final Lore of Magic I have yet to cover in my Magic Spotlight series. So, let's go ahead and take a look. We've got the greenskins, of course. We're going to be taking on the High Elves. And we've gone with a all Gobbo leadership in honor of the Lord Little Waaaagh here. So what do we bring to the table? Well, we've got this Night Goblin Shaymin here. He's our hero choice. The best thing, in my opinion, about Lord of the Little Waaaagh is this guy right here, Sneaky Stealin'. So every time you cast a spell, for 25 seconds, which is quite a long time, you get a map-wide reduction to the Winds of Magic recharge rate, the power recharge rate, for all opposing casters. So for any faction that's going to be using magic, aka any faction except the dwarves, this can drain your opponent's ability to cast spells by slowing their regeneration of magic. It's a very, very nice little buff, especially when you consider that a lot of the spells of the Lord of Little Waaaagh are relatively cheap, like Sneaky Stab in here, 26 melee attack and 20% armor piercing, very nice. We've also got the Itchy Nuisance with minus 25% weapon damage and minus 26 melee attack in a pretty nice area of effect, and Gork'll Fix It, which is nice area of effect, speed, charge bonus, and vigor debuff. So Lord of Little Waaaagh is primarily going to be about buffing your troops and even more so debuffing your enemies, as you can see here. These are the kind of the main two bread and butter debuffs, is Gork'll Fix It and Itchy Nuisance. Gork'll Fix It is going to be great against mobile units, flying units, cav, anything like that, and Itchy Nuisance is just going to be great in any situation where multiple units are engaged, especially in the frontline engagement. For the rest of the army here, we've got a Goblin Warboss on foot. He's got a sneaky little kit here with Get Back Here for that leadership buff, Tormentor Sword for a hard snare. Most people forget that this guy can take the Tormentor Sword, but it makes him a nasty little goon. He's also got Waaaagh and Spite of the Bad Moon, which is a very nice ability, gives expert charge defense and plus 48 missile parry. Can take these guys up to basically 100% missile block chance, so any incoming fire from the front will be blocked. That and any other shielded units nearby, particularly Night Goblins, who already have a pretty solid missile block chance. They're little guys, even though they have little shields, it doesn't take much for them to hide behind. And yeah, they've got this 55% missile block chance, so you add that 45 on there, and yeah, it's going to be pretty strong overall. We've also got a Gobbo Big Boss as the caster sniper, or if somebody gets into the back line and is trying to snipe one of my characters, this guy can maybe give him a little bit of business here. We've got the Hammer of Gork, Goblin Rocklobber, two units, the Rusty Arrows, and a unit of Orc Airboys who got an AP buff in the last patch. They actually have pretty solid AP damage for a missile, non-AP missile unit. 6 AP. We've got two units of Black Orcs. Front line is going to be a couple of Gobbos with the two Gobbo Regiments of Renown. We've got the AP Gloonies and the Warlord's Boys, of course, obligatory in almost any greenskin build, I would say. We've also got the Mangy Marauders and these Spider Rider Archers here. Didn't quite have enough to upgrade them to the Death Screepas, but we've also got some Broken Tusk Mob supported by Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers hidden in the forest here. So let's take a look at this High Elf list. My opponent's got Tyrion here, which is a very good choice against the Greenskins. He's great against pretty much all Greenskin characters, except maybe Grimgor. Sunfang is pretty strong against low armor infantry, which Greenskins have plenty of, and overall a very strong character. He's also got a High Mage here. Let's take a look. It does look like he's brought a pretty heavy spell loadout, so Apotheosis, Soul Quench, Tempest, Arcane Unforging, and Fiery Convocation, so quite the heavy spell loadout here. I'll talk in the end screen why I think you probably want to cut a few more spells out of this. It looks like he's just cut Hand of Glory and then got the additional items for more Winds of Magic recharge, which is certainly a worthwhile spend. He's also got an Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower, Frostheart Phoenix, and a Flame Spire Phoenix. We've also got several units of White Lions here, 1, 2, 3. We've also got 3 units of Archers, a couple of Spearmen, and that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and kick the battle into full gear without much further ado. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Most people prefer Lord of the Big Waaaagh, and especially in this matchup in particular, I think Lord of the Big Waaaagh is a bit better, but there are many matchups where I would say Lord of the Waaaagh can be superior, and we'll kind of talk about that more towards the end. But in terms of what my plan is here, Gorkle Fixit is going to be to debuff any enemy mobile units, so like if he had brought Dragon Princes or anything like that, we could slow their speed and charge bonus, kind of drag them into the pits, then maybe get a more favorable engagement with these Broken Tusk Mob and so on. Sneaky Stabbing is also going to be pretty decent. Unfortunately, it doesn't give magic damage like Fist of Gork does, but still overall a pretty solid buff. And yeah, you can see we're pushing up with the mobile units here, doing some nice skirmishing with Tyrion. Unfortunately, I'm going to get caught a little bit here, but I wanted to try and get on this Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower because it's currently shooting at my Raw Clobber here, and it's managed to destroy 2 of the artillery pieces, so we're down to only 1 Hammer of Gork here with its nice little attached face there. I think that thing's super cool. They've been firing up onto this high ground here. My opponent dropping that fiery convocation, and it looks like it's going to come straight on, and as soon as my units engage here, it'll get right across them. So this was potentially a very nice play here. It looks like it's slightly misaimed though, and mostly ends up getting his own spearman there and almost hitting these archers as well. So that was actually a little bit of a miscast there. If he had just aimed that slightly the other way, it would have done quite a bit of damage to my units. But we are getting the mainline engagement underway. Fanatics being released from the AP Gloonies coming through and doing a ton of damage to these archers and white lions in the back line here, and the 1 Hammer of Gork that's online also still firing. We're using our spells here to try and debuff in this pocket as much as possible, and of course every time I cast a spell it's going to be debuffing my opponent's Winds of Magic, so that's useful in and of itself. The Phoenix Goon Squad here coming in, trying to just alpha strike this unit of Biggins here, but I am bringing up the Gobbo War Boss here, and we're going to lock him in with the Tormentor Sword. Unfortunately, I did get both the Phoenixes here, but I did not get Tyrion, so he's going to get away and come support this mainline engagement, which was otherwise going quite well in my favor. You can see we've got Itchy Nuisance all across the board on all these units fighting in the front line here. So these White Lions, who already don't have the best combat stats in the world, especially once that martial prowess drops, they're going to be really struggling to put out some damage here. But the Apotheosis definitely helping. This White Line is going to break through and chase down my Warlord's boys here, so that's a very nice play for my opponent. These White Lions should hold up okay. The Orc Biggins will be a pretty tough task for them, but they should be able to beat him at the end of the day. And my opponent getting some really nice Flaming Phoenix Species drops here, but again, we're just going to perpetually drop that Itchy Nuisance, and this is actually a Gorkle Fixit here. Since the Phoenix is flying around and since Tyrion is here, I decided, if they want to try and disengage and come after my archers here, let's try and slow them down and negate their charge bonus as much as possible, or if the Phoenixes are flying up and cycle charging back in, it'll slow down their speed and, more importantly, debuff their charge bonus a bit. So again, Lord of Little Waaaagh is more about buffing your own troops and debuffing your opponents, but my opponent does come back here with his Phoenix, going to get into my Orc Air Boys a little bit. Thankfully, Orc Air Boys are decent in melee. They even have that in their tooltip here. Not the best combat stats, but they do have solid weapon strength. And yeah, that chilling aura from the Frostheart Phoenix is definitely tough right now, but with the buffs from Night Goblin War Boss, they'll be able to get some attack stats and hopefully finish off this Phoenix here. You can see the diminutive little Shaymin here has got his little Shanker out. He's going to be going to town on some of these High Elf Spearmen. Biggins are around, but not really supporting the Shaymin too much here. He's getting in there, shanking some High Elves, definitely in for a good time. But yeah, you can see Tyrion taking some damage here. He's currently kind of being circle beaten by Black Orcs. We have been able to win this frontline engagement pretty decisively, but Tyrion is actually holding this pocket up, which is pretty decent. It allows some of these archers to rally. I'm a little bit sloppy on my micro. I had meant to run in with these Force Goblin Spider Rider archers and chase him down, but we did manage to get on my opponent's caster here and did spring the ambush onto these White Lions of the mobile force that was hidden in that forest there. So the White Lions that overchased are getting taken care of, the caster's getting taken care of, and you can see the balance power starting to turn in my favor. And this is one of the things about the Greenskins, is they can be tough to plan for because they're a faction that has a surprising amount of variety. And they can be tricky to use, certainly, but the right build and the right tools in the right situation, you can definitely get some work done. We're going to watch as this beautiful Sunfang comes down and just roast these Black Orcs here. Pretty much finishes off all of the Gobbos that were standing in that pocket. There's 10 8-peak Loonies now standing there. But yeah, we were able to finish off a lot of the forces here. A lot of units just wiped out to the man. We do still have this Gobbo Big Boss out here. This High Mage was able to rally and come back in, but the Gobbo Big Boss is definitely going to come in and give her the business. She has no business being in this fight. The Gobbo Big Boss is actually a pretty nice little sniper character. Decent combat stats, poison and all that, but it is going to be a victory for the Greenskins. So, yeah, it is, that's it, Lord of the Little Waaaagh. So, like I said, I think Lord of the Big Waaaagh is a little bit better in this particular matchup, but that those debuffs did allow us to win more decisively in the front line, and, you know, not the best at the end of the day, but it is something. Let's see here. So 57 kills on the Hammer Orc is pretty solid. 20 on these Spider Riders and 37 on the Broken Tusk Mob, pretty solid as well. They didn't really do a ton, but they managed to kind of come in the late game and clean some troops up there. Black Orcs doing very well in the front line, and you know, as expected in that situation. And my heroes were all able to stay relatively safe. For my opponent, his White Lions performed decently well, but just don't have the punching power to really hold up to Black Orcs. I think that's the biggest issue with White Lions in this matchup, is Black Orcs are going to be pretty common because they're good against almost all High Elf infantry except for Sword Masters. So maybe one or two Sword Masters might be pretty decent here, but overall I think his build, you know, it has some good and bad elements. I would say the Phoenixes are, you know, they're nice on paper, but they don't do that much splash damage, so you probably want to try and use them to snipe out characters. Like if my opponent had pretty aggressively gone after my War Boss, granted that's kind of what I was banking on, and I was going to hit him with that Tormentor Sword and, you know, hit him with the firing squad there, which I did a little bit, but yeah. So let's go ahead and just quickly finish off here with Lord of the Little Waaaagh and talk about what matchups I think it's more ideal in, and what are some fun different ways you can use it. So if we go to the old Greenskins here, the boys, we've got the Gobbo Great Shaymin and the Night Goblin Shaymin as the two characters that can take it. The Gobbo Great Shaymin is an interesting character in that if you put him on this giant wolf here, he actually gives Vanguard deployment. So he's one of the few Greenskin Lords, I think actually the only Greenskin Lord that can actually get Vanguard. So if you're trying to go with a full Gobbo Vanguard list, which is possible, and in some matchups I would even say potentially viable, particularly against the Dwarfs. Obviously the lore attribute is not going to help you at all there, but you mainly just take this guy so that you can Vanguard. He's also super fast on the wolf at 92 speed, so he's kind of trolly in that way. He can just run around, and if you're on top of your micro, it's going to be pretty hard for your opponent to get on top of him. But yeah, if you want to go full Gobbo Vanguard, he's the way to go. And then of course the Night Goblin Shaymin also has Vanguard deployment, but he's just a hero level caster. He cannot take any mounts. Very, very squishy. One of the squishiest characters in the game, so you got to be careful. But that stock is nice because if he's hidden, you know, and casting spells, then your opponent is going to be seeing the spells, but they won't necessarily see him. So it's good in that way. In terms of the other spells here, we've got Vindictive Glare, which is a magic missile. It's you know, magic missiles, you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of. They can be good in certain situations, but I'm not. Vindictive Glare is one of those that, again, it can be good in the right situation, but I'm not too big on it. Gorkle Fix It and Itchy Nuisance are the two mainline kind of debuffs, along with Sneaky Stabbin' as the buff. Night Shroud's an interesting one in that it gives your unit stock and can only be spotted at very, very close range. Also lasts 75 seconds, so a full minute and 15 seconds. You're basically stocked and can only be spotted at very, very close range. And you can cast out on anything, so you know you got an Arachnarok Queen that you want to get up to a dwarf line without taking a ton of artillery and gunfire and all that. Well, just pop that Night Shroud on him and you can get right up next to the dwarves, and then suddenly, poop, there's an Arachnarok Queen, which is kind of terrifying when you actually think about it. But super cool spell, has some nice utility, a little bit situational, and only 9 wins of magic, but the fact that it's you know, 3rd tier spell does mean it's relatively expensive. But the last spell here, Curse the Bad Moon, is an interesting one. It's a Vortex, and Vortexes have generally been buffed in Total War Warhammer to do more damage. Curse the Bad Moon is included in that. It does a little bit of damage, not the most, but it also applies this nasty Curse debuff. If we take a look here, minus 24% speed, minus 30 armor, and minus 26 melee attack for any unit that it comes in contact with. So again, personally, if I'm going with the full Vanguard Gobbo, usually what I'll do is, of course, cut Sneaky Stealin' if you're up against the Dwarfs. If you're up against someone else, it can be useful. But if you're going up against the Dwarfs, you could probably cut that. Take Curse the Bad Moon, the Itchy Nuisance, and Sneaky Stabbin', and try and drop this on a big expensive blob of dwarf infantry, you'll be surprised how much better your Gobbos performs, particularly the the Night Goblins, and the if you stack it with the Armor Sundering of, let's say, the Warlord's Boys, you can get minus 60 armor. It's pretty solid overall. Yeah, that's pretty much Lore of the Little Waaaagh. Really nice for stealing magic. Any faction that's very magic dependent, it's going to be good to use against. So the vampires, for example, it's tricky because both of these characters are very squishy and have relatively low leadership. So the vampires, if they goon them or get on them with a big nasty terror-causing unit, they can take them out super quick. But if you can keep them safe and you're able to spam a lot of those cheap spells and get a lot of procs of the sneaky stealing off, you're going to be hindering the vampires' ability to support their army. Vampire counts are very, very dependent on lore of vampires to heal, summon more unit models, all that jazz. So if you can take away their winds of magic, that's very, very strong. I would also say, any faction that you think is going to bring a Lord level caster, like a legendary Lord caster, like the High Elves potentially, the Bretonia can be decent against them, although I would say probably Lord of Big Waaagh's a little bit better there for the magic damage and the big explosive anti-cav spells. But yeah, anytime you think you're going to be facing a high tier caster, it can be useful to have one of these guys. I would definitely say the vampires is probably where you're going to get the most value out of this sneaky stealing, but overall a very useful attribute against everyone except the dwarves. And I guess that's kind of a good conclusion for this series, is that if you're playing anyone except the dwarfs, you should be taking a caster. So just as a final PSA, I may do one more video talking about it, as I recently, just today actually, played some high-level players on ladder who didn't bring a caster, and that kind of puzzles me, so we may talk about that at a future date. But anyway, thank you all for watching very much. It's been a lot of fun putting together this series for you. If you've liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button as well. That way you'll be notified when I upload new videos. We're going to be keeping it going with daily Total War Warhammer 2 content, so sit tight, and we'll see you next time.